Death is inevitable, and one day everyone has to taste it. But some people face untimely deaths, like death chose them on purpose. Exactly a year ago, on this same day, there was a horrible plane crash that killed 250 people. There were 40 high school kids on that Flight 180, going on a trip to Paris. One of them was Alex, a kid who had a strange kind of premonition. In that vision, he saw that just minutes after takeoff, the plane hit turbulence. People started panicking and screaming. Then suddenly, one side of the plane's door blew off midair, and some people flew out with their seats. Next moment, a loud explosion, and in the blink of an eye, everyone on the plane was dead. When Alex snapped out of it, he saw the exact same things happening for real and started screaming like crazy. Because of the chaos he caused, he and some of his friends were taken off the plane and not allowed back on. The plane took off without them, but just seconds later, it exploded midair with a massive blast. Alex's vision turned out to be true, and because of that, he and his friends survived. But maybe their deaths were already marked on that plane, because the ones who survived started dying one by one, in weird and mysterious accidents. Everyone died, except one. Her name was Clear Rivers, and she locked herself away in a psych ward just to escape death. On the other side, we see a new girl, Kimberly, watching a news show about the Flight 180 crash. The show was digging into the secrets of that tragedy and the strange deaths of the survivors that happened within a year. Kimberly had a Daytona trip planned the next day with her friends, so she turned off the TV and went to bed early. Next morning, they headed out in the car. After they left, Kimberly's dad saw transmission oil leaking from where the car was parked. He called Kimberly right away to tell her, hoping they'd get the car checked, but there wasn't a single repair shop in a 20-kilometer radius. On that same Highway 14, we see a pregnant woman calmly driving a white van. Kimberly noticed a school bus filled with kids. On the same road, a truck carrying tree logs was speeding ahead. We also see a kid playing with a toy truck and car with his dad. All this started to give Kimberly a weird feeling. Meanwhile, some teens were laughing at the smoke coming out of Kimberly's car, calling it a junker and making fun of them. Anyway, a cop car was right behind Kimberly's car. As soon as the cop got a report about a robbery, he overtook everyone to get ahead. That's when he noticed a truck up front, with one of the straps holding the logs starting to come loose and flapping in the wind. Just then, coffee spilled on the cop and he got distracted, and that's when the chains holding the logs snapped. Huge logs started falling on the road. One log sliced right through the cop's car, killing him on the spot. Next up, a biker died. Then those same teens who called Kimberly's car a junker. They also died in a brutal way. In seconds, that truck turned into a killer for everyone. Kimberly's car lost control too. Meanwhile, a woman and her son had brake failure, and their car crashed and exploded. Then another guy who was staring at Kimberly a while back got into a wreck. He got trapped in flames and his seatbelt jammed at the last second. Then Kimberly's car flipped over and that monster truck rammed into it, killing them too. And then suddenly, Kimberly woke up shocked. Actually, all of that was just a premonition she had, but it didn't stop there. Everything she saw in her vision started happening for real. That same old woman, that same truck full of kids, everything exactly the same. Kimberly, now scared, tells her friends that a massive accident is about to happen and they're all gonna die. But her friends think she's just joking around. So Kimberly says, next song on the radio is gonna be an Adele song. And the moment the Adele song starts playing, the smile disappears from their faces. Now they start believing her. To stop the accident, Kimberly pulls her car right in the middle of the road, blocking traffic. The cop behind her notices and comes to check on her. That's when Kimberly tells him about her vision of the upcoming crash. But the officer thinks Kimberly's out of her mind. Right then, the logs from the truck start falling, and within seconds, a massive accident takes place. In the end, that monster truck comes straight at Kimberly and the cop to crush them. But just in time, the cop reacts quickly and saves Kimberly. Thanks to Kimberly blocking the road, a lot of lives are saved, though her own friends die in the accident. During the police inquiry, Kimberly says she had a premonition of the crash, just like Alex Champelaire had before the Flight 180 accident, and he saved his friends. Anyway, all the victims there just wanted to get back home. That's when this guy named Eugene, a bike racer, tells everyone that a month after the Flight 180 crash, Alex and his friends started dying one by one in accidents. Death doesn't spare anyone. Hearing this, Officer Thomas says, Eugene, you're wrong. One of them is still alive, getting treated at a place called Stony Brook. In a way, Kimberly blocking the road also saved a bunch of people. which now means death will come after them one by one. But Tim and his mom Nora didn't believe any of this. Meanwhile, Evan just wanted to get out of all this police mess as quickly as possible. Evan was the same guy who kept staring at Kimberly from his car and was the last one to die in her vision. He had recently won the lottery. After getting out of there, he went home and bought a ton of luxury stuff with the lottery money. Then he threw some old food out the window, poured oil in the pan to fry some snacks, and it spilled all over the stove. At the same time, one of those plastic alphabet stickers from the fridge fell right into his box of corn. Without checking, he tossed it into the microwave. That same day, he had bought Apple products, a fancy watch, and a shiny ring. He was trying them on when suddenly the microwave exploded. Shocked, the ring slipped from his hand and fell straight into the sink. Without wasting time, he shoved his hand inside the drain, and it got stuck badly. Meanwhile, the oil in the pan caught fire and started spreading quickly. With one hand stuck, he tried to put out the fire with the other, but the pan fell to the wooden floor and the fire spread all over. He screamed for help from his neighbors, but no one came. After a lot of struggle, he finally got his hand free. It really looked like death had made a whole plan to kill him, but Evan wasn't giving up either. The windows were shut, so he broke them and made it to the emergency staircase. But the staircase was old and didn't come down all the way, even after shaking it multiple times. It was down just enough for Evan to jump and get off. While climbing down, his foot stepped on some noodles, and he slipped right under the metal stairs. The next second, the stairs dropped and pierced straight through his head. Within moments, the guy who had won a 2.5 car lottery was all over the news, dead. The people Kimberly had saved earlier were watching the news too. These days, Tim had been having a constant toothache, so his mom Nora booked him a dentist appointment. They were supposed to go to the clinic the next day. On the other side, Evan's death had completely shaken Kimberly. She spent the whole night on the internet and somehow found out about Clear Rivers, the only survivor of the plane crash. And early next morning, she reached Stony Brook to meet her, but Clear didn't want to meet anyone. She only agreed under one condition: Kimberly couldn't bring any belongings with her. Kimberly met Clear and told her all about the vision she had. Clear says Alex had the same kind of vision too. He did save us. But a month later, death killed all his friends. In the exact same order Alex saw in his vision, Kimberly goes, "How did my friends die first when they were the last ones in my vision?" Then it was supposed to be Kimberly's turn, but Ivan died instead. That's when Clear realized it was a reverse order now. Death had started killing in the opposite sequence. Maybe something came in Death's way and saved Kimberly, which messed up the order. That something was the cop who had saved her. That meant death would come for Kimberly last. After her, it would be Evan's turn, which is why he died. And before Evan, it would have been Tim and his mom Nora. So now, they were next. Kimberly asked, "So how did you beat death?" Clear replied, "You can't beat death, but before it strikes, it gives signs, bad omens. If you can read those signs, maybe you can save others." Kimberly said, "Why don't we team up and find a way to stop this?" But Clear refused to come out of her room. Kimberly got mad and left after yelling, "You're a coward. Death doesn't need to kill you. You're already dead." After that, Kimberly met Officer Thomas. Just then, a flock of pigeons flew over her head. She paused. She felt like it was a sign. Maybe Tim and Nora were in danger. Right away, she rushed out with Thomas to find them. Meanwhile, Tim and Nora had already reached the clinic, and Tim's dental treatment had started. Right outside the building, some heavy construction work was going on. The noise made the whole clinic atmosphere weird. On top of that, the pigeons were really bothering the dentist. One of them even crashed through the window and got into the room. The doctor started chasing it away, leaving Tim unattended. At that moment, a plastic fish hanging from the ceiling fell right into Tim's open mouth. He was awake but couldn't move because of the anesthesia. Luckily, the nurse came in on time and saved him. After the treatment, Tim and Nora left the clinic. The moment they stepped out, Tim saw a bunch of pigeons and got drawn toward them. From a distance, Kimberly came running and shouted, "Tim, stay away from them! You're in danger!" As soon as Tim waved at the pigeons and made them fly away, the crane operator got distracted and accidentally nudged the control lever. The heavy load hanging up in the air dropped straight on Tim, killing him on the spot. Nora was so destroyed by her son's death, she didn't care about her own life anymore. She couldn't be reasoned with. Thomas and Kimberly got in the car to leave when Clear showed up. She had realized that hiding from death wasn't going to work. She knew someone who had deep knowledge about death's design. His name was Jack. He worked at a crematorium. He always used to say, "You can't defeat death, The only way to beat it is through new life. Back then, no one really understood what he meant. But on the way back, Kimberly had another vision. She saw a woman drowning in a lake inside a white van. Her hands were covered in blood. That's when Thomas remembered. During the Highway 14 crash, there was a pregnant woman in a white van. Maybe she survived back then because Kimberly blocked the road, and now death was after her too. That's when Clear started to understand what Jack meant. He had said, "Only a new life can beat death." If they could save that pregnant woman from drowning in the lake and get her to deliver the baby, then that newborn life would stand between death and the rest of them. It meant that baby would get to live a full life, and until then, none of the others would die. Basically, they could all live out their lives under the shadow of that baby. So Thomas immediately started trying to track the woman down. That night, everyone planned to gather at Thomas's house. Nora came too, since she was next in line. And Clear, death was pretty much stalking her now. After escaping death again, Clear warned everyone, "Death can send signs to any of you, so stay alert." But Eugene was done listening to all this. So he and Nora started heading out. As soon as they stepped into the elevator, Rory started getting signals from death. He saw a shadow of a man with a hook. He quickly realized Nora was in danger from someone with a hook. Clear rushed to the elevator to warn her. She hit the button, but the elevator was already going down. Inside, right behind Nora, was a man holding a hook. Suddenly, the hook got tangled in Nora's hair. The elevator stopped, and in panic, Nora tried to step out, but the doors shut on her neck. The elevator's sensor was broken. The next second, the elevator shot upward. Clear had pressed the button from above. A few people nearby rushed to help, but it was too late. Nora died a painful death right in front of everyone, and no one could save her. Eugene totally lost it after seeing that. Freaked out and angry, he pulled out his gun. Now he was fully convinced that death was actually coming for them one by one, and he didn't want to keep living with that fear, so he tried to shoot himself. But no matter how many times he pulled the trigger, the gun didn't fire. When they checked it, the gun was fully loaded. That clearly meant it wasn't Eugene's turn yet, so death didn't take him. Meanwhile, we see that pregnant woman, Isabella, who got arrested for stealing a van. When Thomas heard about it the next morning, everyone felt relieved. They thought as long as she was locked up, they were safe. But they were wrong. The woman went into labor right there in jail. And since all the squad cars were out on duty, the officer on shift used that same stolen white van to take her to the hospital. On the way, Isabella caused a distraction, and the van almost crashed into an oncoming car. That car had Spectre Thomas and the rest inside. It lost control and slammed into a pile of metal pipes. Thankfully, everyone survived, though Eugene got seriously hurt. They rushed him to the hospital in an ambulance. In all the chaos, no one noticed Rory's friend, Kat. Her leg was stuck inside the car, and she was inches away from being impaled by a sharp pipe. Right then, some news reporters showed up, and their van's fuel tank hit a rock and started leaking. The leaking gas flowed down to where Kat's car was, pooling near the pipe. Kat had no clue and was casually smoking a cigarette. Just then, Rory saved a kid from being run over by a car. That's when Thomas got word. Isabella had been taken to the hospital, and the doctors were prepping for delivery. Back at the car, some mechanics arrived to get Kat out. One of them forced the hood open. That triggered the airbag, which blasted the metal pipe straight through Kat's head. People around turned away in horror. Kat's hand dropped the cigarette, which flew into the gas-soaked pipe below, gas that had leaked from the news van. The very next second, the car exploded, and Rory was blown to pieces. Now it wasn't safe at all for Kimberly and the others to stay there. They jumped into the car and rushed toward the hospital. On the way, Kimberly had a vision of a doctor named Kalarjan. She saw her choking someone. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Isabella's baby's umbilical cord was tangled around his legs. Both mom and baby were in danger. The doctors were doing everything they could to save them. Things got so bad that they had to call in Dr. Kalarjan for emergency surgery. At the same time, Eugene was lying in a hospital bed. He saw the news about Kat and Rory's accident and lost all hope because he knew he was next. Just then, all the windows and doors in his room suddenly started shutting on their own. Then a nearby oxygen tank got knocked over and started leaking after hitting his stretcher. Around that time, Thomas, Kimberly, and Clear arrived at the hospital, and after a lot of effort, Isabella finally gave birth to a healthy baby boy. The three of them were overjoyed, but right then, Kimberly had another vision. This time, she saw that maybe Isabella wasn't supposed to die in that crash. Clear instantly rushed to Eugene's room. As soon as she opened the door, the wall socket sparked, the leaking gas caught fire, and the entire room exploded like a bomb. The blast killed both Eugene and Clear. In all this chaos, Kimberly looked at her blood-covered hands and everything started to make sense. The woman in the white van who fell into the lake was actually Kimberly herself. The new life, Dr. Kalarjian, the ECG machine, all those signs were about her. Dr. Kalarjian wasn't trying to kill her. She was trying to save her. Right after that, Kimberly looked at Thomas and said, "Tell Dr. Kalarjian to be ready for an emergency. To break death's chain, I have to die." She started the van and drove it straight into the lake at full speed. Within seconds, the van sank. Thomas immediately jumped in to save her, but it was too late. Kimberly had stopped breathing. Dr. Kalarjian did everything she could to save her. She gave her CPR, but there was no pulse. Just as she was about to declare her dead, Kimberly suddenly came back to life. She had believed that only by touching death and coming back, the chain would be broken. And maybe she was right. In the final scene, we see the family of the young boy Rory had saved earlier, but the very next second, a horrible accident happens, and that boy dies a brutal death.